Your opinion on CE5 exercise, and should people perform this, by Maverick Star.
I don't see any reason not to, but let's not become orb tourists. In other words, it's not hard to conjure up to get something to appear. What is hard is doing something with that, because when something appears, that is an invitation that, okay, let's take the next step. People just sit there. They don't take the next step because they don't know how. But it is possible. And I can't tell you how in 2 minutes, but it's a whole new life that is being offered. And we got to take that basket. And so far, we're not doing that. We need to really look into ourselves and ask ourselves, everyone who does CE5s, including the people in the government and everyone, what do we do next? We get an orb to show up, then what? It's the then what we have to figure out, each of us in their own heart and all of us as a community.
If you were to give Jake Barber and his team some advice on the then what?
Okay, the first piece of advice is learn to master your attention. Because right now, when an orb shows up, you respond in a very primitive way with throwing your attention out to it just willy-nilly. Your attention is your signature. It is literally a signature that they see as a signature. And when your signature is a mess and all out of control, they have no respect for it. But if you can control your attention, you give it carefully, willingly and lovingly and openly, but you give it. You don't let the event take it. And you hold some of your attention back within yourself. You learn, and that's the beginning, and they will see that and respect that. Later, as you work with this, you learn to find the parts of being that are outside of your ego and to express your attention from there. Then they're going to be really interested in engaging with you, because that means you're on their level now.
You've gone to the next step.
You've taken the next step. And we're far from that, because right now we're looking for technology, which is, know thyself. That's the beginning of this technology.
Right. It always seems to be what I always come back to with this phenomenon. The more I look into it, the more I try to dig deep, the more I try to find answers, the more it's pointing me inwards.
Yes.
And I think that, prior to the podcast, we spoke about out-of-body experiences. We spoke about remote viewing. And these are things that are heavily achievable through internal perspective only. They're not achievable if you put it out there. It's got to be in here.
Exactly. It's got to be in both places. As above, so below. As within, also without. But we have to come to this from a standpoint of strength and capability. Because if we show ourselves as strong and in control of ourselves, and that has to do with proper control of your attention and the sense of self-worth and self-love that you have, your inner peace, all of these things come into it. The recognition of the existence of your soul. If you're doing this from a Western secular viewpoint and thinking you only have meat in your head, forget it. It's not going to work. You might as well go home, because it's not what it's about. It is about something that to them, they have a science of the soul that is precise, very precise. When I'm explaining about taking control of your attention, I'm talking about reflecting an awareness of that sort of science, which we don't know anything about in our world.
What's the closest thing to that? I'm really interested in that. I'm really interested in this interfacing with this ET in a way that they understand it. And I think a lot of people are really interested in that because that's like the fringe. That's where I think first contact happens is through this this medium that is fragile, that is ephemeral, that is like barely understood. Is it closer to like a dream state? Is it closer to a deeply sort of meditative state? Like what does that look like in that interface? How does that feel like? Is there anything you could relate it to that I would understand?
Let me give it a shot. It's first, it's hard to put into words, obviously, because it's not a verbal thing. But if I could do this, there is a taste of essence within us all that when you taste that, when your attention touches it, you know, that's me. And it's not Chris, it's not Whitley, as we talked about earlier in the show. It is that which is behind that, the silent presence that is me. And it's getting to that and living in that and seeing from that your ego then becomes a tool, a life tool. But you are not that life tool. You are the being behind it. And this being has a universality to it. It has, and where do you get to that? You get to that through uncompromising, clear, loving, careful self-knowledge, understanding yourself, know yourself, and you know the whole world, and you know them. But that's where it begins. It has to begin there. I know it's frustrating.
No, that's great advice. I mean, it just makes so much sense to me that would be the medium in which we use to connect, would be to the same mechanism that's used to connect with ourselves.
You know, my wife, she knew this like the back of her hand. And she used to say, I said, well, where do you start? She said, Whitley, you need to laugh at yourself. Laughter is the beginning of everything. And the great mystic of the 13th century, Meister Eckhart, used to say, and it's the title of one of his sermons, I believe even, God laughs and plays. When we start to laugh and play in the context of our journey toward inner search and self-knowledge, then we start to see. Because if you can laugh at yourself, you got a chance to see yourself.
Love that. Beautiful.